Hey bakers, welcome to another episode of Bake It Better with me, Kye. And today we're going to talk about something that is so essential to becoming a good baker. And it seems pretty easy, but it's one of the most common downfalls. So today we're going to be talking about how to measure flour properly. And it really is super key to making the most amazing baked goods. So I'm going to show you how most people measure flour if they're using volume, how we would love you to measure flour if you're using a King Arthur flour recipe, and then a bulletproof way to measure flour so that your baked goods turn out amazing no matter what. So first I'm going to show you how some people might measure their flour if you're using volume. So you might think you're just gonna measure a cup of flour. You'll just put your measuring spoon in there, get it super full, maybe shake it around so it settles a bit. And then if you think you're being super precise, you might use a straight edge to sweep it clean. And then you have your cup of flour, right? Well, what this does is it compacts the flour into this measuring cup and you get way more flour than you need. And what that ends up doing is it makes your baked goods dense and heavy and dry, and your breads might not rise and your cakes will be tough. It's just super sad. So I just put this on a scale to see how much flour I got in the measuring cup, and it's 136 grams. That's a problem because for all King Arthur flour recipes, they're designed to use 120 grams of all-purpose flour in 1 cup. So the way that we would love for you to measure your flour if you're using a King Arthur recipe is to start by gently fluffing up your flour. I'm going to use this wonderful little flour scoop that's super cute. You can use a whisk, you can use a fork, but you just kind of want to aerate the flour because it tends to settle in the bag if it's been sitting there for a while. You can also put this in a container. I love storing my flour in a container. So fluff the flour and then get your measuring cup of choice and gently sprinkle it into the measuring cup here. And you want to overflow the sides so that you'll be able to scrape off the top and have it be super level. So once you gently have sprinkled your flour into your cup, use a straight edge to level off any excess. And then we'll put this on the scale. Gorgeous, perfect 120. That almost never happens. And because that almost never happens, the way that you should measure your flour if you want bulletproof results is to use a scale. And all of our recipes, they have grams as well as volume measures. And so I encourage you, if you're really trying to shoot for the stars and become a great baker, get a scale, measure by weight. Your baked goods will have the perfect consistency and there won't be as much guessing if you did something right or wrong or used too much flour if you just use a scale. So to show you that this really makes a difference on your baking, I am going to bake a batch of donut muffins because I've totally been craving donut muffins lately, and I'm going to make one batch just using the scoop and kind of pack it in technique, and then I'm going to make a second batch using the fluff sprinkle technique. So even if you're not ready for a scale, you can still bake it better using this technique. And then we'll look at those muffins when they come out of the oven. We'll check out the rise differences, see if the texture is any different and which one we prefer. And we're also going to do the same thing with a loaf of bread. So even you bread bakers out there will benefit from measuring your flour like this. So I'm going to go get started on those 2 batches of muffins and loaf of bread, and then I'll check back in with you guys once they're out of the oven. So our donut muffins are out of the oven and they still have to be brushed with melted butter and coated in some cinnamon sugar, yum. But you can already see such a difference in the 2 batches. So this batch I put in green papers. This was made with flour when I fluffed, sprinkled, and swept the measuring cup. So we had about 120 grams per cup of all-purpose flour. And then this other batch in these cute little owl papers, they're really short and sad and dense, and They probably will still taste okay, but the texture of these two is going to be drastically different. And it's not just a function of putting a ton of batter in the green papers, because I used a level muffin scoop for each muffin to make sure that they were exactly the same. So I will go ahead and just cut into these and we can check them out and compare the texture. But these muffins, they might taste okay right out of the oven, but when you let them cool, or even if you waited until tomorrow to eat these, they would dry out really fast. The same goes for bread. We baked 2 loaves of our classic sandwich bread, and one had the right amount of flour and the other one had the flour that we just scooped the measuring cup right in, and it rose probably like almost 20% less. And it was okay for toast, but just really dried out pretty fast. And we'll make sure that you see a picture of those loaves side by side. But you can see here, this is a really nice open grain, some pockets, like this looks super tender. I just want to put butter on it and eat it. Whereas these have more of a tight, close grain, and they're just more crumbly. And so they'll have a different effect on the texture too. So I know what we talked about today, guys, measuring flour seems like a simple thing. Everyone knows how to do it, but the way that you do it makes such a difference in all of your baked goods. So whether you're making bread, whether you're making donut muffins, or you're making anything else that requires flour, I would love for you to use a scale. But if you are committed to your measuring cups and using volume, please use that fluff, sprinkle, sweep method, and everything you bake will be so much better. So thanks for watching and happy baking.